angels, it's Hailey Reese, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am so very grateful that you are here, and I really and truly do hope, as always, that you're having an absolutely incredible morning, afternoon, or night, whatever it is for you when this video finally reaches you. Today's video is one that we just have to jump right on into. This video, this case, and everything to do with it is absolutely haunting. We are exploring a haunting and possession turned exorcism, all centered around a girl that is said to have never existed. But what do you do when there are people who remember this girl, who remember her possession and remember what happened to the church following her entire ordeal? Surrounding this case are a great deal of unknowns. There's a real controversy around it and whether or not it's just a legend or a real cover-up. Now, before we get into this absolutely terrifying case, I just want to take a moment and remind you, or perhaps let you know, that I am uploading a new video every single day. So if you enjoy my content or you just want to see more spooky videos this spooky season, make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button. Make sure your post notifications are turned on, or simply check in every day as there will be a new video here for you to enjoy. But with that being said, let's get into today's video. In 1974, it's said that a small town tried its best to erase one name from its history books. The name of a 19-year-old girl, Clara Cain. They say her story was sealed in church archives, her family relocated, and the priest who performed her exorcism, well, it's said that he disappeared months later. Now, let's make one thing abundantly clear right off the get-go of this case, and that is the fact that there are many people who will tell you that this is nothing more than a local legend passed down and around by those looking for a spooky story. But there are many others who believe that that's exactly what they want you to think. It's honestly eerily hard to find much about Clara online, but hidden beneath the secrets, well, there is a whisper of a dark truth. Now, this story begins in the small community of Haven Creek, a rural settlement said to have stood once just outside of Alton, Illinois. Today, Haven Creek doesn't appear on any modern maps. In fact, it's almost as if it never existed at all. So do with that what you will. But the rumor has it that the town was dissolved in the mid-1980s, not long after a devastating church fire. But the legends say that in 1974, it was home to one of the strangest, most disturbing possession cases ever recorded. This is the possession of Clara Cain, the story that they tried to bury. And of course, as I'm sure you could imagine, well, it all begins when Clara was born in 1955. Now, it's said that Clara was the second of 3 children. Her father was a factory worker, and her mother was a devout and quiet woman. Friends would describe Clara as soft-spoken, artistic, and old-fashioned for her age. She lived her whole life in a small town with one church, one diner, and, well, many, many secrets, as I'm sure you could gather from the title of today's video. Now, by late 1973, it said that Clara had dropped out of community college, and her close friend Ellen had apparently said that she'd become rather distant. More specifically, that she was obsessed with something that she'd found in the basement of their church. Turns out that this was a small book of Latin prayers that the priest would later claim had gone missing decades earlier. Already something just eerie to note. Now, in early January of 1974, Clara's mother began keeping notes that were like part concern and then part confession in a way. In one entry, she wrote about how Clara doesn't sleep, how Clara says that there's someone standing by her bed, and it even says specifically, "I told Father Bernard, but he said that it's all stress." Obviously, her mother and her friends are starting to notice this strange behavior with Clara, and within weeks, it's actually said that Clara's behavior turned really rather violent. Neighbors reportedly started hearing screaming late at night. Her brother would go ahead and say that she was speaking in voices that weren't hers, actually describing her voice as deep, guttural, and mocking. Clara had been exhibiting seizure-like activity, but was also noted speaking in unknown languages and showing extreme aversion to religious symbols. Doctors started suggesting psychological disorders or even possibly epilepsy, but Clara's mother was adamant that there was something far darker going on. She kept pushing for people to look at her daughter and get to the bottom of this dark and almost evil activity. As Clara's condition continues to just worsen and worsen, what started as strange behavior soon mirrored what was described as genuine demonic manifestation. Clara began displaying like an uncanny level of strength, like she was unhumanly strong. Is that even a word, unhumanly? Her strength was not human-like whatsoever. She also spoke in dead languages and continued to react violently to any sort of sacred symbols. Her brother and her family would continuously recall hearing her whispering and talking in perfect Latin. Now, remember how she was seen with the Latin Book of Prayers, but other than that, Clara had never studied Latin and had only ever, to their knowledge, seen it in this book that she'd found. Now, I guess we could, in a way, argue that she was learning Latin from this book, but the way that it was described was like she was absolutely so fluent in Latin that it seemed like it was her first language. Even creepier, you guys, when she was confronted, it said that she would smile faintly and mutter phrases that loosely translated, "He walks beside me." One night, it said that her best friend Ellen would visit Clara's home, and she would claim that the temperature in the girl's room was so cold that her breath turned visible, even though the heat was running. Clara's mother also wrote of finding deep scratches on her daughter's back shaped like talons. And it was said that these marks were far too down for Clara to have ever reached herself, so that was just entirely ruled out. During prayer, it said that Clara would cover her ears and scream until her voice broke. And even creepier is that when holy water was sprinkled on her skin, it reportedly caused like small blisters to form. Father Bernard's personal journals would also describe a stench of sulfur whenever Clara would enter into a room. By late February, it said that her family just no longer recognized her. Clara spoke about a man who would visit her each and every night, describing him as tall, faceless, and smiling. She also refused to sleep, claiming that if she did, he would take her eyes. The townsfolk began to actually avoid the Cain family at all costs, and some swore that they would hear chanting from the church basements long after dark. They attributed this to the Cain family as well. But there were also whispers among the town of Haven Creek itself being cursed. Now, it's said that in March of 1974, the church quietly closed its doors for 3 days. According to a letter found in Father Bernard's personal journal, a ritual that was not sanctioned took place in the church basement. Now, rumor has it that during these sessions, Father Bernard recorded several tapes, and only one is rumored to have survived. But here's where things go really dark. After that night, Clara was gone from public record. No obituary, no death certificate, just vanished. But one hospital back then apparently did list a Clara C as somebody who was admitted for psychiatric evaluation. Now, whether or not that's the same Clara or whether or not somebody really did see these physical documents, I don't know, but that is what people tend to say. Here's where things get even eerier. According to the legend, it's said that within a couple of months, Father Bernard would completely resign. The church would shut down, and shortly after, Father Bernard just vanished without a trace. Apparently, whenever anybody associated with the church was questioned about Clara, they would say things like, "No such individual has ever existed." And this was just a constant local thing. Nope, she never existed. Nope, she was made up. Clara never existed. And while this could be very much true, there are some people who remember Clara existing. Even creepier, another rumor has it that a local historian would discover a photograph from around that time labeled confirmation class. In the photo, front row, third to the left, he would see a pale little girl with light eyes and a nervous half smile. On the back, it said that said girl was described as Clara. Written on the back was the name Clara, apparently, from what I've gathered. And apparently, Ellen, Clara's best friend, reportedly said that what scared her most about everything to do with Clara wasn't even how dark and evil the supernatural and spiritual activity around Clara had gotten. What scared her the most was the fact that everyone around her just suddenly acted like Clara never existed. It was as if the girl was just a made-up story. But how can people remember somebody who's been entirely made up? And if she wasn't made up, well, then what happened to Clara? And if they did cover it up furthermore, I'd love to know why. What happened that night? I mean, it's a really eerie thought. Now, more than 50 years later, every now and then a fragment of Clara's story resurfaces in archived letters or faded newspaper clippings, or even in the one alleged surviving audio tape. But let's just put it here on record that I tried my best to find anything about said alleged surviving audio, and I couldn't find the audio, let alone record of anybody actually having heard the audio. So whether the audio exists or if it's just another spooky tale or part of this story, I don't know. But what I do know is that those who tell the story fully believe it. Some people will claim to have heard the audio, while others will push for the narrative that it just never existed. And again, both are very possible. But if Clara's case was a hoax, why erase every trace of her life? Let's say that the haunting was all fake and the spooky story surrounding Clara and her life really was just made up or never happened. Why would somebody remember Clara having existed and then suddenly she just doesn't? And if it was real, well, then that leads me to wonder how many more cases were buried just like hers were. The fact that the case, the town, and the story has been basically wiped everywhere seems odd. I mean, is it because it just never really happened? Or is it because they want you to believe that it never did? Regardless, this was the story of the alleged possession of Clara Cain, a story the church has denied, the town has forgotten, and that apparently the world was never meant to hear. I mean, what do you guys think of this? Do you think it's just one of those scary stories that are told in smaller towns for entertainment or scares, or what do you think? Or do you think there really was a girl named Clara Cain whose possession got too dark, exorcism may have taken a turn, and any trace of her seems to have disappeared? I want to know from you guys down in the comment section below. I say this all the time, but I truly love nothing more than reading all of your guys' thoughts, opinions, and theories. I'll be responding to as many of them as I can. But that is it for today's video. If you guys are new to my channel or you are just not yet subscribed but you do enjoy my content, I am uploading a new video every single day. So make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button, and please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness, and until tomorrow, I love you. Bye, guys.